Hi there, this is Life Prepper here, and I'm going to give you a rundown and show you how I created these. First of all, what you want is markers like this that's going to go through the papers. So this is just regular copy paper. You test out, find out. So some markers do better than others. So basically, now this is some older ones that I picked up from people. I have markers like this, and you want markers that's going to bleed through the paper. So how I got these patterns here is once I created my patterns, I stacked them on top of one another, and then I simply poured coffee on this. I poured coffee on, let it soak in, flipped it over, poured coffee again, or you can use tea, it don't matter, it's just up to you. But I wanted to create this stain effect. So what it does is I stack each one of my pieces here on top of one another. And then I allow the coffee to soak through it and create the stain effect. And then it creates the overall layering effect. Right here, this here is the original pattern to that. You can see right here, this is all soaked through. This is triangles and stuff in here. It's soaked through. It's still damp, so I got to be careful. Here is the other one here that transferred through. You can see here the pattern here on it coming through here with all the triangles, and as it dries the coffee stain will settle in more. This here is the first piece here. As you can see here, the different texture here that has developed going through it. You can see some of the squiggly lines, some of the others. You can see the difference in the coloration because as it's more in the center areas, a lot of times it don't necessarily soak all the way through. So you want to add plenty of coffee on it, or it's really up to you on how much you want to add. You just kind of check it. So this here is a piece that bled through. So usually I get a top piece and I get a second piece. And the second piece is usually the shadow effect from it. So you can see here where it's all bled through here. And then it's picked up again some of the lines and some of the other patterns and things from the other sheets as well. This one here is right here. You can see here from what the coffee stain's done, how it created it. It's created more texture to it. It allowed it to bleed in a little bit more, and then you're seeing some overall other effects from it here as well that is created from the bleeding of the markers. This here is another one of the shadow effects here. You can see here, you can see the overall colorations on it. You can see where it did some bleeding into it, and thus it's created another interesting overall pattern to it. This one here is the one I played with here. You can see here is the rings and things that's gone through here. Here's triangles. And again, you can pick up a little hairline here, like right here. You see here, this bled through. Then there's some it bled through here and there again. So then it creates this nice overall color effect here. And then here is the top piece right here. See here is all this here. So what you do simply here is you take magic marker and create the bleeding effect with coffee stains and things. It's really nice. What I do is once I draw 3 or 4 patterns, whatever it is I want, like I say, this here is laid on top. You want markers that's going to bleed through it as much as possible. You can have markers that don't bleed through so much. I have different ones here to create different patterns. So once it done that, and then you simply just stack it on top of one another. Same here for each one. I'm going to run through one more time for you, and they're still very damp. So once they dry, and then once you pour the coffee on them, I just simply pour the coffee off of it where it's wet. Then I just stack it to the side, and I allow it to start drying. Here, again, here is the shadow effect and the transfer from some of the other sheets here. Here is the overall bleeding effect that created from pouring the coffee on there as well. And then you see also some transfer marks on that. This here is the shadow effect of the triangle right there. And then again you see some bleeding marks through it as well from the markers. Here's the one that goes on top of it. Again, you see here, you can create any kind of pattern you want. It's up to you on it. I mean, however you want to create your effects. It just comes out with some wonderful patterns here. Here's the shadow effect here. This is what's bled through where I had it placed on top of that. And then I simply have this one right here as well. Now, this one was on top. So when I started pouring the coffee on it, of course, it was soaking more into the areas. And then what I do is when I'm pouring the coffee, or in my case it was coffee, but I flip it over and I make sure I pour on this side as well. And I kind of just check it just a little bit because I don't want to tear the paper up. I allow it to soak in the sink right there for a bit. I put it on I have a dish strainer I set upside down. So I let the water run down to there, the coffee run through, and then I'll turn around and flip it over again and pour another dose of the coffee on top again. And I will tilt it around, take the paper and I'll tilt it around a little bit, move it around. And then once I'm satisfied with the amount I put into it, I just simply set it off to the side and I allow it to start drying. And as it dries, while it's still wet, as it's going through that, what's happening is the ink from the markers, from permanent markers here, and you could probably use watercolor markers or highlighters or whatever you want to try, but I find that permanent markers is one that bleeds the best. And that's what you're wanting to find, is the bleeding effect. And you can try, and what I do is when I'm drawing, I'll lift my paper up and I'll check underneath and see what it looks like underneath a little bit. And if I want it to bleed a little bit more, I'll draw a little slower and I'll put another bleeding effect to it to try to get it to bleed as much as I can. Like I say, once I create my patterns, I simply place it over there on the sink and I pour coffee over it, and then I allow it to bleed into each other to create this beautiful overall designs here. I've already got one jump book listed on my Estes Count Joan Valkyrie short, and some of this here will go in some of my other jump books and stuff as well. Since they did really turn out rather well, once I get the patterns, I'll be fixing them up for more projects of mine, crafts and everything. So I want all you to be safe, be happy, and bless you all.